been stuck in the elevator?
I haven't. I would freak out if I was, though.
I was starting to.
What do you guys see from USC? Like, I know matchup-wise, how do you guys think you match up with them?
They're super talented. They did a good job of getting some of the better transfers in the country. Got a good couple high school kids as well. So super talented. Obviously, one at as tough a place to play as there is in Wisconsin, I'd probably down the stretch. I think they were with Purdue. They had a lead most of the game. They're a good team, and again, just puts you in a lot of binds defensively and offensively.
Did you get accomplished what you'd hoped to during the bye week from a team perspective?
Yeah, we'll probably find out tomorrow. I think so. I think part of it was just getting a mental break from having to prepare for games. I think then it's just like, okay, this is the stretch run. You got 11 games and, guaranteed games. And so we just need to make sure that we use some of the stuff that we did throughout that break and become a little better for it and hopefully not have any rust or slippage from the 7 days or 8 days.
Can you take us inside one of those practices a little bit where you really emphasize that you guys were going to practice? Like, what does that look like mid-season where you kind of maybe practicing a little bit harder than you'd had the week prior?
Yeah, I think just working on a lot of different things and then really competing against each other. That's where it's, whether it's 3-on-3, 4-on-4, different drills, just creating a lot of competition and practice to kind of create some of that edge again. Knowing that, you're going to have game after game after game now. And so, and then sharpening some of our offensive stuff, trying to get that dialed in a little bit, which I think we've done. We're still, you still kind of tinker a little bit, but I think we accomplished that through the break.
In practice, are you typically 50-50 offense, defense, or does it depend on the circumstances?
No, it's usually mostly defense. We do. It just depends. To start, a lot of times it's just our drive to basket reads and just what do you do when you drive to the basket? What do you do at the rim, et cetera, et cetera. And then we do a lot of defense and we scrimmage a lot. We play a lot of 5v5, a lot of 4v4. Just kind of what I've always enjoyed doing. So we compete against each other.
Was there anything else you took from the Rutgers game after kind of watching that back?
Yeah, our offense wasn't very good. I thought that, when there's a body in front of you, you need to pass it, and we didn't do a great job of that. And so just even looking back at it, like I think against Indiana, we might have been, I want to say roughly 8 for 10 at the rim or something like that, 10 for 12, somewhere in that range. And then, against Rutgers, we weren't that good at the rim. And a lot of that's because there's bodies there. And so when there's bodies there, you need to pass the ball. A missed layup is essentially a turnover because the other team is able to get out and transition. And so I thought that was part of the problem. I didn't think our defensive spacing was very good. Just not our best game. Was it that easy?
With Wednesday's game being suits and sneakers, it's become a pretty popular like basketball significant night. Does that have any personal meaning to you? And what is it like to be able to participate in that every year?
Yeah, I obviously support Coaches vs. Cancer. We do those events and whatnot. I think it probably calls attention to something that's difficult. We've had a lot of cancer in my family, and so, yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes, I think it's more of a constant thing with cancer. I don't think it's just a day. And I think sometimes we try to make it a day, and it's like, okay, well, there's my day, and I did it. I think with things like that, I think it's more of it's a 365 days of the year type of thing where if you're affected by it, you feel it in those, every single day. It's not just an event. And so I think the events certainly help raise awareness. And then I think after that, what do you actually do to help that cause is probably the more important part of it.
Feel free to disagree with me on this, but it feels like there's maybe some times where you guys are too unselfish and like passing up open shots. How do you kind of walk that line of obviously you guys want to get quality shots, but also being aggressive when it's there?
Yeah, it's interesting because, I'd have to look. I went through our missed shots from last game, and all of them were completely contested shots. And so, but then I do remember a couple that we turned down that I was like, oh, that's not the one to turn down. And I think when you're not as ready as you should be, some of that stuff happens. Do I think that we turn down early average to get great? I think that's naturally what good teams eventually do. I thought we did turn down a few too many against Rutgers. I didn't think we turned down many against Indiana, though. I think naturally, because of the way our team is built, that's probably going to happen a little bit where, certain guys are better shooters than others, and so we really want those guys to shoot more than the others. And sometimes there's a reason people are consistently open. It's called scouting. And so we don't want to take the bait either. So, there's a fine line between some of that. I think as we progress, I think we need to be better at attacking the paint. I think we need to be better at spacing away from the ball. I think we need to be better at penetrating pitch. I think there's a lot of those things that we need to be better, but part of that is our spacing right now as to who we're playing, where we don't have as many, just all they do is shoot and can defend their position guys out there consistently. So yes and no all at once. I think we do turn too many good shots, but I think sometimes we also take too many difficult shots, especially at the rim.
You discussed leveraging the guys around Bennett a couple weeks ago. Do you feel like over the week, the bye week, that you were able to kind of develop an offensive game plan for your players that they are going to be able to leverage, themselves around Bennett better?
Yeah, I think so. I think part of it too is, specific skill sets and then what they take away. And so, the ultimate, I don't know, of the teams that we've played, I thought Illinois had elite leverage because they have 7-footers that can shoot threes and post. And then their guards can all post, and they've got great length. And so their leverage on both sides of the pick and roll or pick and pop is so difficult to defend, because they got Merkovic and I'm going to say these names wrong, Ivisic. Is that right? Yep. Okay. And they have those guys, and then they bring Hummerkow in, and so they bring in guys that are 6'8" to 7'2" that can shoot and post, and then their guards can post on top of it, and then they can space their shooting. So speaking of leverage, when you set a ball screen with those guys, what are you going to do? Do you switch? If you switch, now they're going to post you, or they can go one-on-one on the perimeter. If you put a coverage on it, now they pick and pop, now you play in rotations, and so you're always wrong with a defense. And so that's the ultimate leverage on the backside. We don't necessarily have a 7'2" guy that can shoot threes right now, and so you have to create that a little bit differently than other teams. And so ours was with our pace offensively, meaning our offense comes at you pretty fast. Ours can leverage some things in the pocket, some of those things, and then ours is with our drives ultimately as well.
One of the guys you can leverage on the backside of Bennett is Alvaro. What have you seen from him offensively the last few games, and what is it important for him to know to try to maybe get in more of a rhythm?
Yeah, his is probably just the ability to screen, just like the screening angles and being able to physically hit a body. I think sometimes, if your body's a little more frail, guards at this level can just kind of blow it up, and then they just beat your screen, and then you've got issues there. And so he's doing a much better job, obviously, an elite passer, and he's actually a lot better finisher than he's shown. Meaning, I think he can drive better. I think he can cut better. I think his feel is much better than he's shown, and I think he's continuing to turn the corner. We're hopeful that he really makes huge jumps for these last 11 games because he could be a game changer there.
USC offensively, they average over 80 points a game. What do you see from them that makes it a challenge, and then what's kind of the biggest key to slowing that down?
They have really good players. They keep it really simple. By design, not because he doesn't know what he's doing, but by design. They just keep simple spacing, and then they play in that space, and then they're able to get to the free throw line quite a bit. Excellent offensive rebounding team. they're just really good offensively. Just got really good players, and they does a good job of keeping it simple with them. And they've got a bunch of them, so you got to scout 10 of them. We just got to play our defense and hope that that's good enough.
What's your thoughts on like getting out during the season recruiting? I know you probably got out this past weekend, but do you have a philosophy on that? Do you kind of avoid getting out because you're focused on the season, or what do you do?
I probably focus more on the season, more so than most. It's just the nature of how I coach. I think I probably go out enough. I think at our level, it doesn't seem like a lot of head coaches go out a ton. I'm trying to figure that out a little bit. I think, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I think people will go to local stuff a little bit more, and then they'll go to some of their main recruits that they haven't seen. They'll try to get a lot of that stuff done in the fall, though. For us, we need really good players, and so we need to be out. And I think my staff's out quite a bit. I'm out probably enough. Probably could always be out more for our level.
Do you, next week when you're out on the Northwest, do you get to go see your signee? Do you get a chance to see him?
I hope so. Yeah, I think he plays 2 games. I think he plays that Friday, and then I think he might play that Tuesday, maybe. So somebody will be there. Yeah, he's a good player. We're excited about him.
What's it important for someone like Trevin to know, as he hasn't played meaningful minutes in a while, but I mean, there's a chance you guys could need him at some point. What's important for him to know to stay engaged?
Yeah, he does an elite job of staying engaged. I mean, he's getting extra work in constantly. He's been practicing really well. We've had a couple games where we've gone in and said we're going to play him this game, and then you get into the rhythm of it, and then you just didn't find a time to put him in. He's kind of stuck there, but we'd like to, because speaking of leverage, I mean, he can shoot, he can pass, and he can post. From an offensive perspective, he's really good. He'll be a weapon in this league, without a doubt. And he's still continuing to figure out from a defensive perspective, all the different coverages and stuff like that. But he's pretty close. I could see him again seeing some time. I could see him seeing some time this week. I could see him seeing some time. But I've said that before, and then it doesn't happen in games. I think he would actually really help our offense. I really do, because he's a different animal to guard, because he can score in the post too. He's physical enough to score in the post.